Hey, it's Russ the Big Guy and welcome. This is video number 13, part 13 on kicking the coronavirus's butt. And today, I want to talk to you about why you should not be afraid of the coronavirus. Now, not to downplay the severity of this because it is severe. The odds are that we will not get it. The odds are you won't get it. The odds are if you get it, it won't be very severe. However, there still is a possibility that we could get sick, and that is why we are self-isolating right now and taking other measures to make sure that we keep ourselves and our family, our immediate people that we're isolating ourselves with, keeping them as safe as possible. So, what I want to talk about today is fear. And remember, in another video, we talked about false expectations appearing real. Remember, we probably won't get sick if we do the things that we're supposed to do to keep ourselves away from the virus. But what I want you to consider is that when we are fearful, when we are afraid, our body goes into a state of fight or flight or freeze, right? Fight or flight, and that is the primitive part of our brain that's always been there, that keeps us alive, that protects us from immediate dangers that come up. So what happens is our brain starts to produce cortisol. Cortisol is the main chemical there, right? So cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, you've probably heard these before. All right, adrenaline, norepinephrine gives us that immediate surge of energy, gives us the speed, the power. It helps draw our blood away from the parts of our body that don't need it to survive an immediate disaster or immediate danger. Cortisol takes a little bit longer to be secreted, I guess would be the right word, right? But the problem is that you're stressing your body out, it's damaging to your tissues, you're wasting energy. So what happens is it actually makes the organism, your human body, weaker. And when your body is weaker, that lowers your immune system. When your immunity is lower, it makes you more susceptible to pathogens that are in our environment and on our bodies and in our bodies all the time. Even before the coronavirus. They've always been around. And there's 5 different categories: virus, bacteria, fungus, worms, and protozoa. So there's lots of different sources for this sort of thing, and all of these make us sick. So fear is producing the primitive reactions, fight or flight or freeze, which is part of our safety net, if you will, our primitive safety net. And so those chemicals are now making our body weaker over the long term because we're staying in fear and the cortisol is being pumped out and pumped out and pumped out. It's lowering our immunity, make us more susceptible to get sick from the common colds and everything else that is already in our environment. And when we're sick, then we're also more susceptible to the coronavirus, I would imagine. Do we need to be scared of this? No. Do we need to be knowledgeable? Yes. So we can use our more advanced, right, our brain, our more civilized brain to override maybe the immediate fear or occasional fear that we might feel when we get in the news or find out that someone else is sick or look at the latest stats on how many people have died, which are horrible. But we can't remain in fear constantly, and this is the reason why, because it's detrimental to our health. It also prevents us from being empathetic. It makes us more self-centered. That's why you see people that get scared and they go and hoard food and toilet paper. They're being a danger to themselves and other people because they're really not thinking right. They're in that fight or flight state. So what can we do? Well, be thoughtful, right? So when this stuff comes up, you can be thoughtful about what it all means. Right? You can be more thoughtful in being, letting your intellect take over from your raw emotions. And we are humans, so we are emotional beings, but it doesn't mean we have to live in that emotion all the time. If you get upset about something, feel it, deal with it, and then move on. If you're scared, the same thing. It's okay to feel the emotions, but we can't live with them constantly, fear being a good example of the negative results of living in fear. Be vigilant. All right, pay attention to what's going on around us. know what's happening in the world. Be aware of maybe some dangers that are happening if people are acting crazy, if you have to go out to the grocery store, or just the fact that you should be paying attention to how you're handling food, keeping that distance from other people if you have to go out. And of course, be sanitary as part of that, right? Make sure that you're being clean. Wash your hands. Hot water and soap actually is the best thing for us washing our hands in terms of the coronavirus. It's not a live virus, but it is, I guess, a fatty-like membrane with the protein hooks sticking out of it. So if you use the soap and hot water, it will destroy that fatty layer, and then the whole thing will fall apart. Now you might be asking yourself, well, what can I do? Like, I need a tool, I need something. It's easy to say don't be afraid. It's way harder not to be afraid. So one of the tools that I like that works great for me, and I think that it can work for you too, and I'd like you to try it, is gratitude. And what I like to do is actually keep a list. So I have, as part of my planner, is gratitude. And so what I do is I write down maybe some of the major things in my planner, the major things that I'm grateful for, and you can do the same thing. So stop and think about what you're grateful for. You have a loving family maybe you're with right now. Even if you're alone, maybe you could be grateful for some time to really stop and have some introspection and think about your life. You could be grateful that you're still healthy. You could be grateful that you have a roof over your head. You could be grateful that you have food. If you don't have food but people are bringing food to you, you could be grateful for them. Maybe you still have a job. When we survive this, we're going to be grateful for an amazing story that we can tell about what we did, how we handled the fear, how we realized that everything eventually would turn into a new normal and we would all move on. And if we've had some serious tests with some illness, or if we're on the front lines or what have you, we're going to have an amazing story to tell afterwards. And again, I don't want to make light of this as a very serious situation, but this is a very practical thing to understand, that the fear, living in that fear, can actually make you sick. So that's why we want to come up with some tools. Now, you may have some other tools. If you have something that works well for you, or maybe you want to just share some things that you're grateful for, and this will help other people who see this video, please put it in the comments. Like and share, of course, as always. And if you have a friend or somebody who that you know is having a hard time in this situation, please share it with them. Or tag them in the video. But it would be great to have some things in the comments which would help everyone. Write some things down that you're grateful for. Now, maybe there's some obvious things we all know that we're all grateful for, but maybe you can come up with a couple things that no one else has thought of, and that would provoke them to think a little deeper and maybe to come up with a really nice list for themselves. When you review that list daily, it's going to change your brain chemistry, it's going to put you in a different state of mind, and it's going to allow you to have a different sort of life and overcome the fear aspect, especially if you're having trouble with this. All right, I hope that's helpful. This is Russ the Big Guy. Go boldly, keep at it, and wash your hands.